The most irritating thing about Rishi Sunak's generational smoking ban is it exploits people's understandable concern that, 14-year-olds and children you might not want them to smoke. They can't smoke now, they're not supposed to smoke now, right? So that would be a sensible thing. But it exploits that, the government is exploiting that to bring in something which effectively will mean over a period of time the British state will ban a 25-year-old, a 35-year-old, a 45-year-old, a 55-year-old from smoking and treating them as though they're 14 and need the state to protect them. It's mad.
Personally, I think it's a terrible idea. It infantilises future adults. It will create absurd situations where 35-year-olds can purchase cigarettes but 34-year-olds can't. And that will inevitably lead to a situation where retailers say this is ridiculous, we can't maintain this situation. Politicians will get involved and then say, right, let's just have an outright ban.
I think Rishi Sunak's generational smoking ban is absolutely absurd. It's not only illiberal, but it won't work. Effectively, what it's doing is it's treating the adults of the future as though they will be children forever. Now, I think that's immoral from a sort of moral perspective. We're treating adults as though they cannot make fundamental decisions about their own lifestyles. But ultimately, when we're looking at it from a wider perspective, this is going to take away those choices and it's going to open up a huge black market, which will effectively mean that those that are 24 years old that will be legally allowed to buy tobacco products and a 23-year-old that won't be legally allowed to buy those tobacco products will still get their hands on it. So it will be ineffective in the first place.
Rishi Sunak's generational smoking ban is absolutely outrageous. It infantilises a whole generation of young adults. And as the incremental ban increases over the years, we're going to have the ludicrous situation where a 30-year-old will be prohibited from buying tobacco in a shop, but a 31-year-old will be allowed to buy. It's going to create so much havoc and so much trouble for retailers that the anti-smoking lobby will have to admit it's not working, but they won't want to repeal it. They'll then demand a complete ban on the sale of cigarettes to adults of any age. That's the direction we're going. This is creeping prohibition, and we'll end up with total prohibition.
30% of our members, when they were polled, said that they are for abolishing further sin taxes, and the smoking ban has been brought up by numerous members because they're so sick of being treated like children. They want to be treated like adults, and it really does signify how out of touch the Tory party is with young people.
I know that Rishi wants to ease the burden on taxpayers, but actually I think this is the wrong way of doing that. At the end of the day, there's £10 billion of revenue from smoking taxes that's going to be taken away, and that's going to be found up in other ways. How are they going to get that revenue back? That's going to be brought in through other tax measures, and we're all going to be feeling the burn of that. Look, at the end of the day, this is a personal choice issue.
I think Rishi Sunak might not have met many young people because there's a bit of a characterisation going on. I mean, we know that smoking rates have dropped, but I also know that young people haven't lost their rebellious spirit. And actually, smoking areas still do tend to be the most interesting, sought-after places. Even people who don't smoke go out to the smoking area. It's still a thing that young people want to experiment with, whether or not they end up being smokers or not.
It's a bit like during COVID when we were told to enforce certain sort of measures to impose on customers wearing their masks, keeping 2 meters apart. It's a similar sort of stance where we're being forced at ground level to impose that on those customers. It's all good passing something in Parliament, but we're the minions at ground level that are having to sort of face the day-to-day aspects of it. And I can see that it can cause a lot of arguments, a lot of discomfort to a lot of customers. And it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a great challenge.
It's not a Conservative policy. It's not even just recent Conservatism, sort of post-Thatcher, 100 years ago. when George Dangerfield was writing about the Conservative Party, he wrote about how the Conservative Party cultivated this amazing working class power base by opposition to temperance. He described the nation's pubs as a string of political fortresses for the Conservatives. So this is against, I think, the entire Conservative tradition, whether that's One Nation or Libertarian or whatever else. There's no theory of the state from the Conservative side which says that you have a duty to live your life in the most convenient way for the NHS or any other public service.